Hello and welcome. Today I'm bringing you guys a book review for The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. So this is, it's one of those books that fall under generalized fiction, but it has a gothic edge to it. So I guess it's like a gothic historical fiction because it does take place after World War I in London. Well, actually Yorkshire, but in that general area. It starts in London and then it goes to Yorkshire. So that's the genre that this book falls under. If you guys have noticed, I've started like branching out and reading different genres and such, and the gothic horror, gothic historical fiction stuff has caught my eye. So I've been exploring it, and this was one of the ones that came up. So obviously I nabbed it from the library. So to start the review out with, I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed it very much. There is a reason why I'm only giving it 4 stars though, because there was an element of the story that I don't think was satisfying enough. But yeah, so the basis of the story is Ivy Radcliffe finds out that she is the last heir to Blackwood Abbey, and she has just inherited it from her cousin, Lord Hayworth, so she is now Lady Hayworth, and she moves to Yorkshire to live in the Abbey, and she is a woman who has been living on her own with like her best friend. They struggle to pay rent and find jobs because they're women. And now that the war is over and all the men are coming home, women have been pushed out. You know, they were good enough to help during the war, but now we don't want your help anymore. You know, that whole lovely thing. So she sees this as an opportunity to not have to worry about anything. She was like, I went from nothing to I own an abbey now. Like, yeah, I'm down. So she jumps on this opportunity, which I don't blame her because, girl, I would have too, okay? And after she gets there, things start to happen. And that's what the whole story is about. It is about her experience living at Blackwood Library that is haunted. Is it not haunted? Who knows? I know because I read the book. You don't because you didn't read the book. But that's the general idea, is this place is haunted. Something is going on and she is feeling the effects of it. Now, I have to figure out how to talk about this without spoiling the book, but what happens to Ivy through this book, I feel a lot of other people because after I finished this, I went and I read other people's reviews because it's what I do. And a lot of the low star ratings, I don't think a lot of people comprehended why Ivy was acting the way she was acting throughout this entire book, because she basically is like losing her mind, you know, and she's starting to distrust everybody around her. And so a lot of these other lower reviews are like, she's naive and she's stupid and she makes stupid choices. Whereas for me, paying attention to what Ivy's going through and paying attention to how everybody around her is acting, her choices aren't made out of naivety and they're not made out of stupidity. They're made out of a woman who is confused. She is confused. She doesn't know who to trust. She's got these fuzzy memories. Is she losing her mind? Is she losing her memories? Like, which is it? Like, she doesn't know, and it's affecting how she presents herself. And so you watch her spiral through the book with these problems, and she makes not good choices, you know? And then when you add a character who comes in and manipulates her even further, she continues to make really bad choices because at this point, she just doesn't know who to believe. And I feel kind of bad for the slander that she's getting in some of these other reviews, because I'm like, she's not naive and she's not stupid. She is losing her mind. She doesn't understand what's going on around her. She doesn't know who to trust. She doesn't know what to believe. She doesn't know if people are lying to her, if they're telling her the truth, if they're being honest, if they're being dishonest. You know, like, she's being told these wild and crazy, like, outrageous claims about what's going on in this library at Blackwood Abbey and what it can do. And then at the same time, people are like, the people who, like, work in the Abbey, like, the maids and stuff, like, they're very standoffish to her. And, like, she constantly catches them in the midst of conversation being like, we need to tell her. No, we can't tell her anything. We have to tell her. No, we can't. So, like, her spiral into making these stupid choices are logical because she becomes frantic. And I'm just like, do so many people just not understand her character? Like, what is it? And I think it's because, and it's interesting too, because like a lot of those reviews come from other women. And if there's one thing that I have learned over the years since I have started reevaluating how I look at female characters in books, is that we women are very harsh to female characters, and we view them in the same lens as how a lot of men view women, as opposed to just viewing them as for how they're being built as a character. Because I can guarantee if this was a male character, a lot of those reviews probably wouldn't be saying he was making stupid and naive choices. He was making crazy choices because he was losing his mind. And so it just kind of, and maybe it's because, like I said, I've started to reevaluate how I look at female characters, because I used to be like that. I used to look at these female characters in these books and just be like, oh my gosh, she's so stupid. But now that I've started like really paying attention to how the character is built and how she's being utilized in a story, I realize she's not stupid. She's frantic. She's crazy. She's unsure of everything around her. So she's going to make stupid choices, but that doesn't make her stupid. Now, one of the other things, she does mention a lot of times that she's an independent woman, and it's just because that's how she's lived her life at this point. She also feels like there's no man out there for her, so why is she gonna bother like putting the effort into finding somebody, you know? And it's not as played up as some of the other like negative reviews like to play it up. Like, she mentions it and she brings it up every now and then, but it wasn't to the point where like I found it annoying. Like, once again, it's a part of her personality trait that I started to realize this is just her mindset at this point. It's not, I'm an independent woman because I'm so strong by myself. It was more like, I'm independent because I don't think there's really anything for me out there. So this is the lifestyle I've chosen. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna own it. Like, that's how I viewed it. So overall, I loved Ivy's character. I really loved seeing her go through the book and everything. There is a romantic element to this story, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, loved it. Came real close, because at the end, oh my god, I thought it was gonna go in a direction I didn't want, and you guys, if you've been here long enough, you know I don't like to hurt my books. This is a library book. I was this close to wanting to smack this book off of my bed, and it was gonna plummet from a 4-star to a 1-star, because I was just like, if she's gonna do what I think she's gonna do at the end of this story, I will hate this book with all of my heart. And she didn't, thankfully. Fox did not. She made up for the end, and I was like, you almost had me there, ma'am. You almost had me there. But I loved the romantic element that was in this. The gothic vibes, I do think they are present, but they're not like super in your face present, and they more so pop up with like the description of the abbey, how old it is, and with the ghostly creature that is haunting the abbey. Like, that's kind of like where the gothic vibes mostly show up. And then the fact that it's in a very dreary, rainy, foggy kind of place, and so some of the descriptors fit that gothic vibe. I wouldn't say it's like a full 100 like gothic vibe feeling, because there's a certain element that like really makes you feel like you're reading that gothic vibe, and I'm starting to learn and discern it as I read more of these gothic books. And this has it. It's there, it's present, but it's not like ugh, and like super strong and like in your face, if that makes sense. There's some side characters where I loved them, I hated them, I loved them, I hated them, that kind of thing. There was one for a while there, I was like, you know, if something happens to you, I really wouldn't care. And then later on, I was like, maybe I take that back just a little bit. Just a little bit. Like, and I like that. I like when you can make me go back and forth with liking a character and not liking a character. I will say the element that I felt is what the element that brought it down to the 4 stars, was the ghost curse that is going on within this library. I do think it was anticlimactic and kind of a letdown when it finally came to fruition and it was taken care of and handled and whatnot. I did not like it. I was just like, oh, that's very anticlimactic. And the story like builds it up and builds it up and builds it up. And then it just kind of like, here's this super simple, easy solution. And you're like, if it was that easy, why did it take this long? Like, and so it just kind of, it just wasn't what I was hoping it would have been. It was definitely the most disappointing aspect of the story. Now, I will also say there is a prologue in this book. Now, I don't know about a lot of you guys, but there's been a lot of discourse recently across the different social media platforms about prologues are stupid. I don't read them. I skip them. I'm a prologue girly. I will read the crap out of a prologue. I will skip an epilogue. Okay, 9 times out of 10, an epilogue will ruin an entire book for me. But for a prologue, I do like prologues. But I am also aware of good prologues and bad prologues. This one, I feel, is probably an example of a prologue that somebody would probably have felt better skipping. And it's because what happens in the prologue only shows back up in the book till like towards the very end for like a page or 2. And I'm just like, that's not a good payoff for tying the prologue back into the story, because what's focused on in the prologue is never focused on throughout the rest of the story, and instead they focus on a different entity instead. And I'm just like, the prologue would have made more sense focusing on that character and not this one, especially if we were only going to bring that character into play for like 1 more page. And so I definitely think like this is an example of like a not very good prologue, and probably the type of prologue that adamant prologue skippers would be like, see, this was a waste of my time. It was stupid. It had nothing to do with the book. When it does, but it's like this much. So it's one of those, the payoff just kind of like isn't worth it kind of thing. Other than that, the pacing is good. I would have to say the prologue is interesting. Like, when I read it, I thought the prologue was interesting. I was disappointed that it wasn't brought back into the story well enough, but it is an interesting and intriguing prologue. And then the first 3 chapters are a little bit on the slow side, because you're meeting Ivy, you're getting the setup, you're getting moved to Blackwood, so it's a little bit slower. But then after that, for me, the story kind of like took off and it got interesting, because you were kind of immediately thrown into what was going on. And even me as the reader, there are times where I was like, wait, what? Did I miss something? Or is that just how this is written? And it's actually just how it's written. It just kind of like throws you for a little bit, at least for me. It threw me, okay? Like I said, I'm still roughly new to the Gothic historical fiction and stuff and like that. So for me, this is like a really good book. It was very enjoyable. I definitely much liked it. But yeah, the pacing overall after that 3rd chapter, I felt it held really well. And I listened to the audio. I did an immersive read, so I did the audiobook plus was, reading the pages. And the first night I got through 68% of it, because I was just really interested in what was happening to Ivy. That was like my driving force, is what exactly is happening to Ivy. Who can be trusted, or can nobody be trusted? And then I finished the rest of it the next day. So I finished this in 2 days. That's how quickly it went for me. And I thought it was great. And I think it's worth checking out if you're into like the historical fictions that have like a horror Gothic vibe to them. I don't think you're going to be like super duper blown away, like 5-star worthy blown away, because like I said, there are some elements that are really disappointing. But overall, I think it's gonna be enjoyable for you if you pick it up. And then if it's not, then it's not. Like, to each their own. But yeah, this is my first book by Hester Fox. I actually have another one on hold for the library that I'm actually looking forward to. So fingers crossed, I like that one as well. But yeah, that would be my review for The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. So if you guys have read this book, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you haven't, let me know if it sounds interesting to you or not. And until next time, like, subscribe, comment, all of those great things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.